Senator, good to have you. Thanks for coming.
Good to be back with you, Neil.
This start, a lot of folks in the other party have said it's not enough of one. In fact, that it's a joke, and that the savings we're talking about over 10 years, $250 billion might seem like a lot, but in the scheme of spending, closing in on $20 trillion, chump change. What do you say?
Well, I think you got to have some merit to both arguments. It is a significant start, and Neil, you can know that by the fact that the president is being roundly criticized by some segments who want more spending and more debt and higher taxes. So $250 billion is an important down payment, but we do need to do more. You pointed out that there are other parts of the budget this does not touch. That was why we tried to have a long-term commission to wrestle with those very difficult problems. But the fact that the president's willing to step up and freeze this very rapidly growing part of the budget, and it's being roundly criticized by some members of his own party, that shows there's really something to it.
Well, you were early on among those critics, Senator, especially when it came to stimulus. You said the problem with stimulus is that it doesn't just stimulate a little bit, it tends to get expensive, and we got the first indications of that with last year's $787 billion package, about $85 billion more than we thought. The president's not going to call it stimulus tonight. He's going to call it more jobs-related spending. What do you make of that?
Well, whatever you call it, Neil, the important thing is it creating jobs or not? And clearly not all spending is created equal. I personally would rather see, and I hope to hear, something about tax cuts for job creation. Let's get businesses thinking about hiring people again. Let's give them an incentive to do that rather than being in such a defensive crouch. Let's help small business, which is the engine of most new job creation, with tax cuts and allowing them to depreciate assets more rapidly to give them an incentive to invest.
I'm sorry, sir, but what about extending the Bush tax cuts? There are a few Congress and Democratic congressmen who have been pushing that now. Don't go so fast on letting the tax cuts, at least the upper two, expire at the end of this year. How do you feel?
Well, I think you've got to go forward and keep the tax cuts in place clearly for the 99% of the American people. If the economy, at this point, we shouldn't be raising taxes.
What about the upper ones that the president wants to let expire for 2011?
Well, if the economy is growing again and we've got decent rates of growth, if jobs are being created, we do have a deficit we need to tackle. And I guess my point on that, Neil, would be if we could guarantee that additional revenue would go to actually getting the deficit down, making the debt smaller as opposed to just new spending, then it would be worth thinking about. If you're just throwing it into the federal revenue and it's just going to go out to a whole variety of things, then not so much.
Senator, well, I have you here. It's all over the blogs, and I'm committed to ask you this. Might be just idle gossip. The folks who want to set you up to challenge the president in 2012, maybe even as an independent presidential candidate, because you're an odd man out. You're not quite a Republican, you're not quite a Democrat, sort of a misfit toy. What do you think of that?
Well, I don't know what to think of that, except that the people who've been writing that must have too much time on their hands. Neil, I'm focused on one thing and one thing only, and that's trying to do a good job representing the people of my state. We've got to get this economy turned around. We've got to get the deficit under control. We've got to focus like a laser on middle-class economic issues. I'm not running for president. I'm trying to do what's right for my state and our country, and I'm willing to work with the president, Republicans, anybody to get that job done.
Senator, if you do run for president, of course, you have an open invitation to announce it here. I was telling Fred Thompson the same thing. But
don't hold your breath, Neil, but I appreciate it.
All right. Evan Bayh, thank you very, very much. Very good having you.